Biodiversity is defined as the totality of genes, species, and ecosystem in a defined area. Everything from smallest single-celled organism to the largest apex predator make up the biodiversity of a given area. Each species and organism collaborates in ecosystem to maintain balance and support life, much like an endless web, and it supports everything humans need to live in nature: food, clean water, and medical care. The Philippines is one of the world's 17 mega biodiverse countries because of its geographical isolation, diversified ecosystem, and high rates of endemism, with 2/3 of the world's biodiversity and 70% of the world's plants and animal species. In the last few decades, we have already lost a significant amount of biodiversity. According to the WWF's Living Planet Report 2018, vertebrate population sizes have decreased by 60% between 1970 and 2014, and the threats to the world's biodiversity are becoming more serious. The Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, or IPBES, issued a significant study on the state of global biodiversity in 2019. Around 25% of the species in the surveyed animal and plant groups are threatened, implying that around 1 million species are currently on the verge of extinction, with many more likely to do so in the next decades unless action is made to reduce the severity of drivers of biodiversity loss. The global rate of species extinction, which is now at least tens of thousands of times faster than it has averaged over the last 10 million years, would accelerate further. Coral reefs, for instance, are among the world's most diversified ecosystems. Around 25% of all marine species rely on healthy coral reef for shelter, food, reproduction. However, pollution, coastal development, and unethical fishing practices, climate change all pose serious threats to coral reefs. About half of the world's shallow water coral reefs have already vanished, and they may go entirely unless urgent action is taken. Biodiversity is the current rate of change and loss in all aspects of biodiversity in hundreds of times quicker than in prior documented history, and it shows no signs of slowing down. Human action have drastically altered nearly all of Earth's ecosystem. For example, 35% of mangrove and 20% of coral reef region have been gone. Ecosystems have been continuously converted for agricultural and other uses around the world for at least the last century. The extinction of species is a natural element of Earth's history. However, compared to the natural pace, humans have raised the extinction rate by at least 100 times in the last 100 years. The current pace of extinction is far outpacing the rate of new species emerge, resulting in a net loss of biodiversity. It is a very difficult problem to address because we are talking about the process that happens global scale. Addressing global issue is the government and international government duties. Yet, as an individual, we can mitigate biodiversity loss. For such, we can do first, recycle. The old cliche, reduce, reuse, recycle is fantastic. But for now, we only focus on the last bit. Invest in products manufactured from recycled resources. We can recycle plastic, paper, wood, and metal so we can make a difference. On the other hand, try to recycle as much as possible. Encourage our community to participate in recycling programs. Second, buy sustainable. Make sure we're buying fish that has been harvested sustainably before we start buying seafood. Avoid endangered fish such as bluefin tuna and only buy seafood that bears the Philippine Marine Stewardship Council seal. Third, protect local habitats and make wildlife welcome. We may not be able to save the world, but we may contribute to the improvement of our communities. Clean up animals' habitats such as beaches, forests, and other undeveloped areas. Make our neighborhoods more wildlife-friendly. Birdhouses and other forms of housing, as well as growing native flora and transforming our garden into a wildlife sanctuary can all help. 4. Volunteer. There is undoubtedly a slew of organizations in our neighborhood attempting to make the world a greener place. All we have to do now is look for them, volunteer our time to serve the community.